After 27 years of marriage, things had fallen apart between us. In August, I'd had to ask him to move out of our house in Massachusetts, and he had. He was renting an apartment a mile away and commuting back and forth to New York. The couple everyone believed was golden and normal and eternally intact, who gave younger musicians hope they could outlast a crazy rock and roll world, was now just another cliché of middle-aged relationship failure. A male midlife crisis, another woman, a double life. Thurston mimed a mock-startled reaction as a tech passed him his guitar. At 53, he was still the shaggy, skinny kid from Connecticut I had first met at a downtown New York club when he was 22 and I was 27. He told me later he liked my flip-up sunglasses. In his jeans, old-school Pumas, and untucked-in white button-down Oxford, he looked like a boy frozen in some diorama, a 17-year-old who didn't want to be seen in the company of his mother, or any woman for that matter. He had the Mick Jagger lips and the lanky arms and legs he didn't seem to know what to do with, and the wariness you see in tall men who don't want to overpower other people with their height. His long brown hair camouflaged his face, and he seemed to like it that way. That week, it was as if he'd wound back time, erased our nearly 30 years together. Our life had turned back into my life for him. He was an adolescent lost in fantasy again, and the rock star showboating he was doing on stage got under my skin. Sonic Youth had always been a democracy, but we all had our roles, too. I took my place in the center of the stage. It didn't start out that way, and I'm not sure when it changed. It was a choreography that dated back 20 years to when Sonic Youth first signed with Geffen Records. It was then that we learned for the high-end music labels, the music matters, but a lot comes down to how the girl looks. The girl anchors the stage, sucks in the male gaze, and depending on who she is, throws her own gaze back out into the audience. Since our music can be weird and dissonant, having me center stage also makes it much easier to sell the band. Look, it's a girl. She's wearing a dress. And she's with those guys, so things must be okay. But that's not how we had ever operated as an indie band. So I was always conscious not to be too much out front. I could barely hold it together during the first song, Brave Men Run. At one point my voice fell like it was scraping against its own bottom, and then the bottom fell out. It was an old, very early song from our album, Bad Moon Rising. I wrote the lyrics on Eldridge Street in New York City in a tenement railroad apartment where Thurston and I were living at the time. The song always makes me think of the pioneer women in my mother's family, slogging their way out to California through Panama, and my grandmother being a single parent during the Depression with no real income. Lyrically, the song reminded me of how I first brought together my art influences into my music. I took the title from an Ed Ruscha painting that shows a clipper ship angling through waves and whitecaps. But that was 3 decades ago. Tonight, Thurston and I didn't look at each other once. And when the song was done, I turned my shoulders to the audience so no one in the audience or the band could see my face, though it had little effect. Everything I did and said was broadcast from one of the 2 40-foot-high onstage video screens. For whatever reasons, sympathy or sadness, or the headlines and articles about Thurston's and my breakup that followed us everywhere we went that week, in Spanish, Portuguese, and English, we had the passionate support of South American audiences. Tonight the crowd stretched out in front of us and blurred with the dark clouds around the stadium. Thousands of rain-soaked kids, wet hair, naked backs, tank tops, raised hands holding cell phones, and girls on dark boys' shoulders. The bad weather had followed us through South America from Lima to Uruguay to Chile and now to Sao Paulo, a corny movie mirror of the strangeness between Thurston and me. The festival stages were like musical versions of awkward domestic tableaux, a living room or a kitchen or a dining room, where the husband and wife pass each other in the morning and make themselves separate cups of coffee with neither one acknowledging the other, or any kind of shared history in the room. After tonight, Sonic Youth was done. Our life as a couple and as a family was already done. We still had our apartment on Lafayette Street in New York, though not for much longer. And I would keep on living with our daughter Coco in our house in Western Massachusetts that we'd bought in 1999 from a local school. "Hello," Thurston called out genially to the crowd just before.